I want to know if he's bunking up with Tyrrell, and if he's the big spoon or the little spoon. I think he'd be a little spoon just out of principle, because Tyrrell's kind of, he's got the elderly gravitas.
Yeah, and that's true. And using those key stats, they are the key things that we use to pick out our emergency men. I don't appreciate the laughing, because I recognize how fumbled that was as I lost my train of thought. But anyways, back to the emergency.
No.
Wait, what was that?
I like that you came back to start it off fresh. We're gonna do it live, damn it. 3, 2, 1.
Live as always on Tuesday nights. This is Divots and Pivots. I'm Andrew LeDuc. This is Bud Copeland, and we have the intern joining us on camera, making their I would say camera debut, but how you doing, Cooper?
Say hey to everybody, Coop.
Hi.
Hi there.
Now
It
go to bed
is.
and be nice to your mom. Go.
It's always
Good
be
night.
nice
We
to your
love you.
mothers out there. And I'm gonna dive right in before Bud even gets a chance to talk, because we're gonna have an opening thoughts, and we're gonna make a drink while we do that. We're gonna make ourselves a nice smoked whiskey while we have our opening thought here, because we're gonna talk about the TGL tonight. We're gonna talk about Live. We're gonna talk about the PGA. But I really wanted to start with one quick opening thought about the TGL, and that is, I am surprised and pleasantly surprised by the intensity that you can get out of watching a golf shot digitally on a screen, and dare I say it, more intense than watching the golf shot live on TV, if that makes sense. Now, and what I want to explain is that when you're watching it live on TV, what we see is typically that shot of the golf ball in the sky with the sky background flying through the air, and you don't know what the hell is going on. You don't know if it's going to be good. You don't know if it's slicing or hooking or whatever. You don't necessarily know that as much either when watching on TGL, but what you do get is you get the forward view of where it's going in the hole, so you get a little bit more of an idea. And what I found to be intense and almost like a thriller portion of it was, like, is it going long or short? Because you really can't tell on those screens until the very last second. That's what I'm here for. I was excited all week last week leading up to the date night one. I've been excited all day this week leading up to night two. I'm watching it right now up here on my split screen. LA's up 5-1, but the intensity of the TGL, we're going to get more into it, of course, because I know Bud has thoughts on it. It's what golf needs, and I'll leave it there as we move forward. Did you like the drink?
What do you? So tell me again. Tell me again. What are we drinking? What is this? It's a smoky whiskey. What the fuck are you doing over there?
It's a smoked whiskey. You just smoky whiskey. It's just smoked.
I don't know. I've been on the wagon for a while now.
Yes. I smoked it with some oak chips because it's just fun. Chips. It smells nice, and let's be honest, anytime a guy gets a chance to drink whiskey and hold a blowtorch, you're not gonna pass it up.
I'm not gonna fight you on that. If you said, I don't think there's a dude. I'm gonna say dude, because dude can be, it's a state of mind. I don't think there's a dude alive. If you said, hey, got a ball of bourbon and some blowtorches, you don't have to finish that sentence. I'm probably going to show up just to see what happens next. No, the intern came down to say goodnight. Morale is high. We're halfway through. We're almost at the halfway point of TGL here with LA and Jupiter.
Yeah, they're full 7. Yeah. So
I think these first few we're just going to get through, and obviously the competition's going to be there and whatever. But backing it up to last week, we came on, we didn't know what we were going to get, and then we got what we got. And we do have some other topics to weave in throughout here, but because they're all interconnected in a way. But I got to say that it exceeded my expectations, exceeded my expectations. I think like what you said, golf needed this. We needed this. There's an element of, this isn't supposed to be, I like what Tiger said. He's like, I just wanted to set something up so I can show these kids a thing or two. It's like basically saying I can't hump 72 hole. Right. And we're a million people tuned in, right? A million people tuned in. It was a huge success. Say what you want about, well, of course it's Tiger, it's Rory. It's called building partnerships. It's called launching a product. It's called knowing your audience and what. And you have this going on while Live just seems to be fluttering to catch its footing and really, kind of do what it needs to do for the next wave. Right now, it's looking exactly like we thought it would look a while ago. I thought it was going to be dead a lot sooner, but the bargaining chip that it turned out to be with the PIF and the PGA Tour Enterprises had to last a little longer. And now that it's just, new CEOs coming, or he might be even here. I don't know what the hell they're doing with that. You got stars like Brooks and, Bryson's basically, he's doing more on his own shit than he is Live. He's done with Live. I think Bryson's bigger than Live. Bryson's not bigger than the PGA Tour. People are going to say he is. He is a big star. He's the biggest star. He's probably the biggest star in golf outside of Tiger Woods, because he does have the YouTube crowd. He definitely has the respect and his bona fides in the professional game. And then he's just got those people who find him a fascinating human because he's a scientist in a golfer's body. So there's a lot of exciting shit happening. TGL delivered everything from, you got Scott Van Pelt, you had Marty, you had Mark, all these guys who just wrapped up doing major bowl games and the ball playoff. And then let's say, hey, let's go do a golf. And you've got Matt Berry. I love it. Last week he's in a suit. This week he's in the golf, the golfer uniform, the pullover hoodie, long sleeve deal. They're already saying earlier tonight, they were talking about how they might be identifying the forward tees. I think the ball's flying a little longer because they were just bummed. They were flying those first couple of greens. Yeah. And these aren't like you and me where, wow, man, that wedge usually goes 116. No, if they miss by a step or two, like Kiz did, that's one thing. But then when Colin flew it and then Tiger flew it, that's when everybody, that's kind of like Tiger looking around going, I know how far above.
Wait a minute here.
But those kinks will work themselves out. The banter that we're getting, the back and forth, the hammer, which will get adjusted. The scoring needs to get adjusted too, because it's still not exciting enough knowing that they're playing for playoff potential tie-breaking points. I do like that even if the match is closed out early, you have to be playing because tiebreakers, they'll work it out. I think it's going to turn into like more of a, even if it's 15 holes, 5, 5, and 5, but we won't go there. But so far, so good. I'm curious, and I want to ask you this question because I'm so close to this shit. I would say between the two of us, you're more of the Johnny come lately in the golf world.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't come into golf until like 17, 18. You've been doing it all your life, so yeah.
So what, and I'm just loving all this. What are we missing? What are the naysayers out there saying that we're just overlooking or we're forgetting? I'm not saying they have a point, but what are the critiques right now? Have you seen any?
So I will say not major critiques. Like I said, I've had a few critiques that I shared with you last week as it was going on, and in the immediate aftermath the following day, that they were minor things. Like, I love the hammer. I don't love that the hammer's a towel. I would much prefer, I think it would be more fun if, like I told you, if it was a button back at their little, I don't know what bench, I don't know what you want to call it. The virtual caddy, I think that is what they're calling it. So if there was a button back at their virtual caddy that they had to run over to and hit before the other team took a shot, like, I think that adds just another layer of excitement.
Oh, I remember we talked about this. I think the hammer actually should be a button on the other side of the fucking arena. Sure, and that way, if you see the other team going for it, either run up and hit your shot or let it happen.
Accept your fate. Yeah. So like, that's something like I just think the towel is underwhelming. Like, you throw the towel down and then all of a sudden all the graphics and the square, like that part definitely does seem more.
They should have to just drop their pants and say hammer.
You know what?
No,
I'd still watch.
I'd watch. I don't know. By the way, real quick side note: I never went diving on the net deep enough, but apparently Tiger and a hammer, that would be apropos for him.
So I see the movie Ride Along had some inspiration there for Kevin Hart's digital second character. You seen that movie?
No,
Kevin Hart's character, his online persona when he's playing video games is the Black Hammer.
That's funny.
So it's really great. Funny. But anyway, so that the hammer being a button, like, I think that's a minor critique. The other minor critique I have is that if you're going to be a very tech forward and around tech league, which this is, I think the tech information and stats should be somewhere here on the screen and not just on the massive scoreboard that's there in the arena. Cause like you can see it somewhat from the camera angle, but I'd rather it to be just a very skinny ribbon on the side that has like club head speed, ball speed, all the distance, that stuff. Like, I'd like to see that.
I'm envisioning that as, because we're sitting here watching it now.
Right.
Homa just knocked in the bunker. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, all right, so we got a clean little, what do they call those things? Score bug up there in the upper left-hand corner. You got the logo in the upper right. This looks like a normal golf broadcast, right? We got our top 10 scoreboard or our scoreboard, and then everything's clean. Because normally you want to let the course shine and the views.
Which I
and
do
whatever.
like that too. Yeah, I like that aspect too.
I think, though, if all of a sudden you start adding tickers, because it's inside with the lighting and everything, it's going to turn into a cornhole tournament. I don't know why.
It's a fair point, yeah.
But I do think that they could do something where maybe right after the shot is hit, they do this all the time. They have an overlay, right? They one of the cool things on the PGA Tour that they've started in the last few years is they'll show the green up in the upper left hand corner, and front, middle, back, and as soon as the ball is hit, AI will generate where that thing's going to land, and they'll drop a pin in it, and then you watch it like go. And that's the kind of thing I could see here, which is essentially what we're getting. Now, to your point earlier, where you were like, we weren't sure what we were going to get. How did they get this right? We're entering an era of simulator golf. Just took they're already talking about popping up 2 or 3 more of these. I called that last week. I was like, if they have 1 million plus, they're going to go ahead and start talking about expansion, because this is what Butch Harmon was bitching about, where the normal tournaments, you don't get the top 10 guys anymore. Well, the PGA Tour is going to balance that out of saying, you're right. You're not going to get these guys at the Century the Century will, or the Sony Open in Hawaii. No disrespect to Nick Taylor. Good for him back in the winner's circle.
Hey,
you're not going to get them there. They're not going to the John Deere. They're not going to the RS. They're not going to these middle tier tournaments. So instead, we're going to see them here. We're going to see them on TV. And so how did we get people to pay attention? Same way that, the Air and Space Museum and the Smithsonian got us to pay attention to the IMAX screen. They just built something bigger, and then they put a product out. And people are like, what the fuck is this? So it's interesting to see all this excitement, because then, as you alluded to at the beginning, lives in tough spaces right now. And I before we go full live,
because I kind of want to storylines, and we will get lost in that.
So why don't you go next? Because I was about to start ripping into Butchie Harmon and telling him that Gramps needs to just move along.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there. I do want to wrap up a few TGL thoughts real fast here, but even before we get to that,
we're not going to be done with TGL forever.
No, I know that. But the builders table, us, not really sure what that account is, but thank you for the like, appreciate it. And then Daniel, evening to you as well. I'm not sure if you're still here, but thank you for tuning in. We're hanging out until 9, like every Tuesday.
I like that he's repping that 2020 LA Lakers bubble championship banner. You got to let it fly. Everybody else is playing in the bubble, so it counts.
Hey, it definitely still counts. But so when it comes to the TGL, though, I want to just, I guess, quickly get to tonight, because I think this is a perfect kind of beginning of the show commentary here, because you just texted me about it. You're a huge fan, it seems, and I'll let you speak for yourself, but it seems like you're a huge fan of Tiger's walkout tonight.
Go ahead.
I saw it, and for a second, because I was actually just got in the car. We were leaving dinner, heading home, and I had it up on my phone, and I heard it start, and I said, no, Tiger has already had to have come out. There's no way this is like he's getting his own special intro here. And it was. He got his own special intro to Eye of the Tiger, which if you're going to do it, come on, pick something else. But regardless, I started thinking through, and I was like, okay, yes, you know what? As I thought through, I was like, I get it. This is his show. This is his thing. He's signing the paychecks. Like, I get it. Do what you want. Have your fun. I get that. But then I really thought about it. Said, no, I got to go back to what my initial gut thought was when I first saw it. And my initial gut thought was, please don't let this be Tiger having his own intro apart from everybody else. I in my gut, I wasn't a fan of it. I kind of want Tiger to just be out there as one of the boys, one of the guys, like just chilling and everyone else, but it's the spotlight. And then they even asked Kevin Kisner, and I love this. Kevin Kisner goes, Tiger's never been that cool in his life, basically saying he can't pull off his own intro like that, which I just thought was fun jabbing, especially since he's on his team. And then they interviewed Charlie Woods in the stands, who said, my dad did exactly what I thought he was going to do. I wish he hadn't. I give it a 4 out of 10. And I was like, and then when I heard those, I said, you know what? Yes, stick to your gut, Andrew. Your thought had some legitimacy to it. I know they're ragging on him, but like, it's not that I hated it so much to like trash it completely, but I didn't need it. That's all. I didn't need it.
I loved it. I loved everything about it. I'll agree with you that the song choice left something to be desired, but when your name's Tiger Woods, it's just sitting right there.
I know
The reason it was great for me is everybody else, it's four-time PGA Tour champion, 2-time President's Cup winner, Kevin Kiss. They're giving the resumes. They didn't give his resume. They didn't say, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't say Tiger Woods. They didn't say shit.
He just walked out.
The Tiger starts playing the smoke, and then he just walks out. And then the next words that are spoken have to do with moving on with the show. To me, I think it was one of those less is more. I rolled my eyes heavily when I heard it was "I the Tiger."
Of course,
I was hoping. But then again, that song choice was not for you, and it was not for me. It was for people older than us, not by much, but definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, because I was about to. Charlie. I don't know. I would be curious.
Charlie called it awkward. Charlie called it awkward. I think I just remember the word. He said the word he used was awkward.
Well, it's because Tiger Woods is awkward. He's awkward as fuck, just like most other, super geniuses. The guy's brilliant. It's not just that he's really good and disciplined. He's very, very smart.
When you see Tiger, he's been in some YouTube videos recently. He's been doing some more things like that. And when he goes to make a joke or rag on somebody, it's funny because you almost see it coming. You can see the buildup almost coming from his shoulders rising. It's the slow smile. He's like, "Oh, I got a good one. I'm gonna say it." And then he says it. He just smiles to himself, and it sometimes takes a bit to land. But yeah, I could definitely see awkward being a good word for him. I've never really thought of him that way, but I think I'm starting to see it more.
So this is perfect timing. So have you seen the 17-year-old kid Blades Brown? We've talked about him before.
Yes, I heard about yes.
Turn pro. He's taking the Akshay route. And the reason I bring Akshay up is because I could see Akshay being the kind of guy with his social media following and his presence. And he just got signed. I think he just went all in with Callaway as well. But I could see it's going to be these kind of stars who have a quirk or a little bit different. I could see Blades Brown on something like this, or one of those young guys if he actually makes it. He's declaring pro. He's playing the Amex this week. He's played in some tournaments before, and made headlines. And I like his spirit. But so they have a pipeline to continue feeding good talent, entertaining talent. I think what's going to happen is if you're entertaining enough, then we're gonna start feeding you over here towards the TGL, because that's kind of the intersection of the YouTube golf world meets the PGA Tour. That's exactly what they're doing right there, because you can't dumb the game down for these guys. You got to do something different, something above and beyond. And that's what we got here, 60-foot screen, rotating green, the whole freaking bit. Yeah. So you keep these feeders taking the talent and putting the eyeball people out there. We're never going to have a shortage of good golfers to go out and compete in these tournaments. And I bring all this up because Butch Harmon was saying golf's not in a great place. The PGA Tour, this is really troubling. The average viewer turns on golf on Saturday or Sunday and they look at the top 10. They don't know who any of those people are.
That's because they're not watching on Thursday, Friday. I'm sorry. If you watch golf, you know who the guys are.
Well, that's kind of his argument is invalid. He's Butch Hart, and he's kind of one of those guys, kind of I've been there, done that. That great. Your CV doesn't mean that everything that comes out of your mouth is logically sound, but by claiming that just because in the mid-tier tournaments the top-tier guys aren't showing up, life's changed, dude. It doesn't mean that we're in a bad spot. It's evolving. And I don't see his argument where, okay, so the lay person isn't going to turn into the John Deere. That's what the PGA Tour is kind of saying. We know this. So we want to get their eyeballs over here. And for
the lay person has never turned into the John Deere. I'm sorry. That's
and Butch is so close to it. And that's why he's like oh shucks, get off my lawn. I don't like what's happening to the game. What's happening to the game? What's changed about the Masters? What's changed about the players? What's changed about the classic events?
Well, some
titles, some sponsors.
It goes back to that old school PGA mindset that a lot of people have issue with the way people think about golf, and that it's modernizing. That's his problem with it. It can be summed up in that he doesn't like that it's modernizing. And it looks like is that Homa that has the hammer on his head right now? Is that what I just saw? After Kevin Kisner came up short in the Kevin Kisner's been coming. You see how short he came on the par 3? I think it was hole 3 or something like that.
No, I didn't. I was running interference for the roommate.
He came up 50, 75 yards short of the green on this par 3. So Kevin Kisner's, I don't know, he's been struggling with the screen tonight, it seems like, because he just came up short again. So it is interesting to see how some of these guys, and how the tech will, as they try to tweak it as weeks go on, how it might affect the outcome. But it's all stuff that we anticipate is a possibility.
Yeah.
So you go in with that mindset, it's not an issue.
It's no different than these guys go out to courses where they haven't played before, and first round, second round, they go out in some practice rounds, different conditions until they can figure it out. Same thing here, where they're gonna have to, play in and play around this thing more and more and more and under different conditions. I think something that stands out to me or stood out to me on the very first hole, Ludwig Oberg sinks his putt, and they've got a microphone in the bottom of that cup.
Yeah,
and it is loud, and that ball rattles. And at first it was jarring, and then I thought, that's brilliant. They're doing everything they can to kind of cherry pick from other sports, because entertainment is not unique to a single sport. It's just how do you figure out the presentation of it all. Obviously, the NFL has figured out their recipe. They'll hold us hostage for 3.5 hours, no problem. Golf used to have that appeal to a large crowd, and now it's largely guys like you and me, and I'm not even tuning in. Like I said, I'm more interested and invested in TGL and then the business side of golf than I am the competitive side. Again, doesn't mean that Nick Taylor doesn't deserve a little shout out. The Canuck gets another win, good for him, some FedEx points. We're coming back stateside, but until we get to Torrey Pines and the Farmers, or we get to the Genesis, it's just not as engaging and entertaining. But to Butch's point, it doesn't mean that golf and professional golf, even professional golf, has been redefined. Because I would say that Grant Horvath is a professional golfer. He's not, and he would probably even say that he is a professional golfer. He's not a tour pro.
No, but he makes his living off of playing golf. It's the same way we call it. Look, you got to look at it this way: PGA pros at clubs. They are professional golfers. They're not, like you said, they're not tour pros, but they are professional golfers because they make their professional living based off of the game of golf. Grant Horvath does. All of YouTube golfers that are full time, they're professional golfers. Even Bob does sports.
Well, what's funny is I was actually just going to say Bob is not a professional golfer. Bob is a content creator. Okay. And I would say that like Fat Perez,
that's fair.
Professional golfer. He's on there because of his skill. And then he's also entertaining versus Bob, who's an entertaining guy, and then just happened to fall ass backwards into golf as a niche. Because didn't he started out with Bob Does Sports, right? It was like,
which is still what it's called. But they did narrow in on,
I think I heard him say he actually had to sell that. Bob Does Golf. Fuck it, that's totally irrelevant.
But so like it definitely wasn't the original plan, but they honed in because I think they realized they had something. And what's small sidebar here? What's great about them too is that as they're driving around the course in their videos, you hear them talking like baseball and football, and they're not just like talking surface level stuff. They're talking like historic names. Those guys know a ton about all sports. And but that's that entertainment value, because I think there's, like you're saying, you can cross these sports. Like they do it on their channel with golf talk and then talking about all these other sports. The TGL does it with the little things they've stolen. Like even with we saw the first timeout when they tried to ice Justin Rose tonight on a putt. They tried to ice him, and the timeout, you guys sit there for 15 seconds. Yeah. But what I noticed is that it was at the end of the timeout, you get the basketball horn from an NBA timeout. Well, that's what you got. That's what they played in the arena. And I'm like, we all know that horn right there. That's from an NBA game timeout. But I love that they use it there because it almost adds to the ice effect, if that makes sense.
In all of what we're talking about with the numbers that this is drawing and how nobody gave a shit or tuned into the Brooks and Bryson versus Rory and Scotty match.
3.2 million total viewers. Not consistent, but just total viewers in general.
Total viewers.
On last week, yes.
Yeah, I think they were averaging like 1.2 at any moment or something.
It was 1.2 consistent ones, yeah.
Yeah, it was for all intents and purposes, this was a smash success, and it comes at a moment where Liv is reeling. Before we get into Liv and they're reeling this, I want a couple more things. Blades Brown, I brought the kid up for a reason, because if you pull up his picture, I think I've said this before, I'm pretty sure he is Kevin Kisner's mini-me. And
I can't picture him right in front of me right now.
Yeah, get Jamie, see if you can find a picture.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
of Kevin. Yeah, can you share your screen and help the And if for those of you listening on the pods, thanks for tuning in and sticking cover your mouth. But then you're gonna have to go home and you're gonna have to find a picture of Kevin Kisner. Won't be hard. And this kid Blades Brown, they look almost identical. And both Callaway guys. Well, I guess Kiz is with Wilson. Did he go back to Callaway? I know he went to Wilson when his game was kind of.
Kisner, I'm not sure. He's probably we could probably see whatever he's wearing tonight. It will tell us most likely. But
I'll tell you this: everybody else is wearing multiple things. Tiger.
So I noticed that tonight.
He looks good. I mean, it's like, yeah, of course, I'm going to wear my sponsor.
Did they do that? I forget. Did they do that last week too? Where
they were matching colors, but they
right. It's their own thing though.
Yeah, they can wear. They're wearing their own. That's Kevin Kisner. You can't tell me that's not like a mini Kevin Kisner.
Yeah, it's very.
He even looks like he's got a lipper in right there at 16 years old. He was at the Myrtle Beach Classic.
He does.
So the PGA Tour, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, I think they're onto something here, and I do think because you've got ESPN behind you, it's going to get legs. It's just there's no two ways about it. Liv is still looking for a TV partner. I haven't heard shit about anything with Fox. I don't think it's fallen through.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, and I haven't heard anything all week about it. And with the way that it was said last week, you would have thought it was coming any day. So something had to have happened there. But you bring up a good point with them already being on ESPN, because what you get with being on ESPN right away is seasoned, known broadcasters and commentators. Scott Van Pelt, like these guys, like everyone knows these names. We grew up with these names, and so to throw them into the TGL like this, it's just another natural fit where you're not starting from scratch, even though you are in a way, but you're also not. So I think we just keep saying things that are the reason why TGL is being successful right now, and the arguments, some of the arguments I'm hearing of people like, oh, it's amazing, like Live Golf does it first, and now TGL is reaping the benefits. No, like stop. Live is not doing this first. Liv's doing something else entirely. It's like, sure, Live broke.
No, they're not.
If you want to say Live broke the mold of professional golf, like fine, you can say that because they did golf in a different way. It doesn't mean they did it in a smart way. Tiger and Rory did something here that is completely different, but they know that it's different. And I'm curious to see if Rory gets his own walkout too, since he's up there with Tiger. We'll see as they show Tiger's walkout again.
We're halfway through the show, so it's definitely time for a quick West Wing reference that takes us into our break to say hello to our friends from Underdog. But what you're talking about is the logical fallacy. Just because one thing happened before the other doesn't mean it was caused by the other. It's post hoc ergo propter hoc, and it's the, I think, second or third episode of the West Wing. But it's a very, very, very easy thing to get into. Oh, Liv, look at this, Liv shook the branches, and now all this money's coming up. Look, Liv was a disruptor, and so they forced TJ. You can try to prove that. You can say just because one happened after the other. Who knows how long Tiger and Rory had been chatting about doing something like this, and maybe Liv was the kind of catalyst of like, let's get off the couch and do it. Well, whatever the case,
it's the same way people grocery stores were talking about. This is a lame comparison. It's the same way stores and grocery stores were talking about doing online pickups and building it over a period of years. And then COVID hit, and this is the industry that I do my professional job in. COVID hit, and they fast tracked all of it to do it within 6 months to a year. And now online pickup is what every business model and any type of store, like stuff happens as it's a catalyst, and it's okay for something to be a catalyst, and you don't give something else the credit for it.
All right. When we come back from the break, we're going to dig into Liv just a little bit, and then we'll circle back to TGL. Don't go anywhere.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Well, and the other thing I've been hearing too when it comes to Liv as we transition into Liv here is when it comes to the TGL, people saying, "Oh, just imagine how even more entertaining TGL would be now after we've seen it once if Liv had a team in there." No, it has no, because it would. Because here's the thing, it's not. It wouldn't be. No one would give a shit that they're from Liv at that point. Because let's think of the guys that they would put into this. It would be okay. Say Brooks, Bryson, Rom, and maybe Joaquin Neiman or someone who's got a little fire in them. I don't know, but maybe Bubba, something fun like that. But we at that point. Yeah, at that point, we'd be looking at them just as golfers. We wouldn't be looking at them and saying, "Oh, this is the Liv golf deal." No one would give a shit because no one cares about Liv.
The thing about Liv and these golfers is everybody that they put up on a pedestal to say, "Look at these talented golfers," were built through the PGA Tour system,
Exactly.
and you can't get around that. They don't have any homegrown talent. They've again, Butch's point of PGA Tour was so arrogant they thought they could do anything for so long and nobody was going to challenge them. What makes you say that? Because you disagreed with the way it was run? Because it's just so freaking short-sighted and arrogant for him to think that, give some people the benefit of the doubt. He's got, just because of his position of being one of the greatest golf instructors of all time, he sounds bitter because of the change. And the change came and Liv said, "Hey, we're going to take a big pile of money. We're going to take all this talent. We're going to try a new product. Your product sucked. You had all the talent in the world. You had all the resources in the world. Your product blows. Nobody wants 54 holes in a shotgun start. Not if you want to be taken seriously." Liv's not over, TGL's not over here saying we should have world golf ranking points. They're saying this is entertaining. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be competitive. That's what Liv should have done, because the last couple of weeks, the direction they're going sounds sadder, more pathetic, and just incredibly short-sighted with some of the comments. And desperate. There's a great word. Now I'm going to start with the guy who agrees with me. And and this guy, I think it's Eugenio Chikara, which I think he won early on in Liv.
Yeah, it was one of the first 3 or 4 events. Yeah.
Yeah. And he finally came out and he said, "I'm done with it." He said, "I see what it's like to win on the PGA Tour and how your life changes, how you get major access, ranking points. On Liv, nothing changes. There's only money." Yeah. We've said this from the outcome. And then, so we've got people like Kevin Na coming out going, "Oh, it's not fair that the majors don't recognize winners on this." Because it's not. What do you mean it's not fair? It's not equitable. It's not as hard to win on Liv as it is to win on the PGA Tour. Somebody please at me, bro. Somebody, prove me wrong on this. It's not as hard to win on Liv as it is to win on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, most of the majors are private events.
Yeah, and those majors are private. Yeah, go take your beef up with them. And then John Rahm on world rankings and major Liv golf stands. Meanwhile, at a DP World Tour event, 2-time major winner, it's wrong that we're not getting world. No, it's not, John. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're rich, you're petty, and you're wrong. You want to have your cake, eat it too, and then you want to play in a watered down field in a watered down league and expect to get the same recognition. And once again, John, you owe all of that. You owe your stance. You owe that little logo that you got on your hat. You owe everything that you have to the PGA Tour. You cashed it in and you sold your bona fides. I don't judge you as a human. I just wish as an adult you would take some accountability and move on with your life, because all of this, we deserve world golf ranking.
I'm just so sick.
You don't deserve world golf ranking points. Nobody can name a Liv golfer that is truly a Liv golfer. Even what's his face who came out of hiding, Anthony Kim. He's not a Liv golfer. He's playing Liv golf right now because
he was so popular because of the
after
PGA.
Seeing him play Liv golf, he couldn't hack it. He couldn't get right now. And I don't mean that in general. I mean, he had to go to Liv because I'll tell you what, just judging from the way he was playing, it's going to take a while.
Him to the Corn Ferry. He's not. Yeah.
I'll make a prediction that I do think that Anthony Kim plays a PGA Tour event again before he hangs it up, because I think that, going out to Liv, that's just him. He's not going to rust off for a year or two. He's playing some tournaments with some world-class talent, et cetera, et cetera. So Rahm, same fucking whiny baby bitch shit every single year. You're stupid. You're not dumb, but you're wrong. Kevin Na, you're wrong. Yeah. And then here's the coup de grace. All of this is supposed to be, they're professionals. There's accountability. We're just as good as the other guys.
Yeah.
Bubba Watson was not relegated from Liv in 2025, even though he was in the drop zone. Because captains were exempt, then they weren't exempt, but Bubba was able to use a special business case clause in his contract to stay in the league.
See, and that's the thing. If you work in language in your contracts to keep your job, could you fucking imagine if Justin Thomas, if they were like, you know what, JT almost made the FedEx Cup, let's
let's use a special clause because we know he's a popular golfer. This is just the weakest shit I have ever seen. And anybody who's still out there chirping that Live Golf is somehow on par with PGA Tour. I will give you this. It is professional exhibition golf. It's exhibition golf with professionals. It is money. It's big money golf.
We've always said that.
You know what it's not? It's not tour golf. It's just not tour golf.
It's just not tour golf.
It's not big enough. There's not enough kind of fairness. There's not enough golf. So to be tour golf, you got to be certain things. The official world golf ranking and the 22 to 24 associations and golf bodies that make up that whole conglomerate have been doing it this way for a few decades. A few dozen people decided to pick up their ball, try another thing. They weren't recognized by the majority, and now they're claiming that they're being bullied by exclusion. Well, guess what, folks? We're back to playing sports. If you have eyeballs, then the money will come. Nobody owes you anything because you cherry picked, again, a few very big tour stars from the PGA Tour. And I'm going to use the same analogy I've used before. They thought, and you thought, that when they came over, that spotlight was going to come with them.
Right.
Nope.
It just hasn't worked out that way.
No, they thought they were the shine. Nobody. You were just standing in the spotlight. Now that you're out of it, you're out of it. Enjoy the money.
if those guys worked their way back into the PGA Tour eventually and on tour and like back to where they were, they're like, don't get me wrong, I'm welcoming them back with open arms. It's because that's what the sport is there for. But I mean, they're going to have to go back through in a way that makes sense for where they are in their official world golf rankings. But you didn't even mention what I think is the most damning thing that happened to Liv in the last week.
Holler.
And it's very close to what you're talking about with Bubba Watson, but it's Brendan Grace being relegated in the drop zone, being relegated, but then because there was no one to move up into the tour, I'm going to loosely say the tour, into Live Golf from the relegation zone, he just got re-signed.
Oh.
Like
nobody
that is
around.
The biggest joke is it's just not your whole.
Wait a minute.
What you sold because that was one of their main arguments that they used to try to get official world golf rankings. When they went to make their case, one of their arguments was, "Oh, look, we've put in this system of relegation so that we can build like you always say, a pipeline of golfers." What a fucking joke!
So
it is.
I forgot about that because I was much more ensorcelled by the Bubba Watson.
I know you were.
I knew that he was going to be. I knew that he was going to have a role in the team. I figured he'd be like coach, something like that. But just to be like, look, where's Victor Hovland? Where's Tony Finau? Where's the next big wave of golfers? I thought Greg Norman's
not coming.
Nothing in a long time in sports since my Georgia Bulldogs went back to back. Nothing in sports outside of that has given me this much pleasure to peacock around about. Not to say that I'm right and they're wrong, because I was not right. I was right. I knew that it wasn't going to last. And I also knew that this was entertainment golf and it lacked those certain elements of tour golf for it to have legs. But these last few things is right. What do you mean there's no pros to take his space? And I mean, don't give me some freaking garbage about, well, officially we didn't have anybody from the. You mean you didn't have a checkbook anymore? Exactly. I think that they've been cut off. I think that's what's happened. I think
so
the PIF
it feels like that.
And so, because otherwise it would have been, who do you want? God, I mean, nobody's heard from Jordan Spieth in a while. Do you think he'd cut ties? I don't know. Let's find out if $500 million.
If they really had the money to, they could easily, even at a discount, go and find a mid-level tour player and probably bring them over for a certain amount of money and take Brendan Grace's place. So that's the thing, though. That's a very easy way to solve the problem of still making it appear like they have that relegation system that they're talking about.
Yeah,
they didn't even bother to try. You're telling me they couldn't go and get somebody around like 150 on the tour and convince them to come over for maybe just a little bit more money than they make on tour? Like they didn't even
double
try.
the tour minimum now.
Yeah, they didn't try.
I think it's because they couldn't. I think, like I said, I think the purse strings were cut, and that's why it's like, oh, Greg Norman's all of a sudden not the CEO. Yeah, Greg Norman even knows what's going on. That's why he didn't kind of push back or fight it too much.
He didn't really fight for that.
No, his role is done. He made the splash. And by the way, in the business world, there are CEOs that their whole role or whatever is to get a startup going, and then successful or not, it's kind of like their job is to take off with the plane. They're not going to steer it. They're not going to land it. They're not going to do anything else. They're just going to get it off the ground and then just walk away.
They're going to jump out of it just like he did at all the freaking first year events of Live Golf. We started at the Boston one. He literally skydived out of the plane and landed on the fairway. Like
well
that,
done. I
but
forgot all
that's
about
what he
that.
was there to do. That's what he was there to do.
And
Once
mission
again,
accomplished.
it made people happy on the day because it was an entertaining product, and we get it. But it's enough is enough. Enough is enough. And look,
Iron Heads golf.
I'm gonna quickly swing us back into the TGL because I think this is the one thing that I think
I've seen in a while. Sorry.
This is the one thing that I think endangers what the TGL can become. We are now 2 weeks in, our second blowout.
Is it 6-1 still?
It's 8-1 now.
8.
But,
my eyes are horrible.
And let's see, and LA, who was up 8-1, just dropped the hammer again. And they have this putt to win it to go up 10-1 basically. So this is the one thing I will say now, and I don't think this is here to stick. I think guys are figuring this out. They're getting the feel for it. They're trying to figure out the hammer rules, the crowd, like they're all feeling it out. And some guys obviously in both of these weeks have just been able to figure it out faster. But this is where I think nobody's going to watch every week if it's a constant blowout. And that's the danger that we're in, that we need to keep an eye on.
And they're going to have to start limiting the hammer. This is going to get out of control. The guys are just going to start dropping it every hole. We're going to have, and
right.
That's where we're going to get.
Well, that's they tried that tonight, though. They've been dropping the hammer that's like the 8th time the hammer's been dropped. Last week we saw it twice.
Well, they're doing it on purpose. And also, if you're down 8-1, you're going to drop it every time because you need the points for the tiebreaker at the end. So they are leaning into the competitive thing. I think you're right. We're going to figure it out. They're going to break this 15-hole match up into three rounds of 5 is what's going to end up happening.
I think that makes sense.
First of all, you get another commercial break in there at the turns, right? Yep. That kind of stuff. And then you do 5 holes. By the way, I love 3-man alternate shot. I'm digging the 3-person alternate shot. I think that's a pretty cool thing. I think what they'll end up doing is creating another, kind of crossbreed hybrid. Maybe they do like a bramble. Maybe they just do straight up scramble for like 2 holes or something like that, or 3 holes where I would love to see what 3 of these tour pros, Bryson, I love what he's doing with breaking 50. Truth be told, I wouldn't be shocked if breaking 50 all of a sudden ends up on Netflix or Prime or a streaming platform somewhere, because he's going to continue to get. It's kind of like comedians in cars getting coffee, or any of those.
It's a good product,
and it's going to be something where, especially if you are a politician, or if you're promoting a movie, or if you're releasing a book, it's going to be like it's going to be just another podcast stop. It's like we're going to go try to break 50 with Bryson. But I would love to see what these guys could do, straight up, maybe tip it out wherever you want to put them, but see what they could do in full scramble mode.
Yeah, no, I think I hadn't thought about that, but that's a great call. That's something like what Bryson's doing there could be something on a network like that. I love that. I hope it does, because it is just great content. So I'm here for it. Look, well, like I said, they definitely did it on. You said it. They definitely made it a point, I think, in the pre-show meeting or the pre-match meeting to say we're dropping the hammer no matter if you're up 10 points or not. You're dropping it no matter what, as much as you can, because that's the thing. You say if you're down by a lot, you're going to drop the hammer every game. Well, you still need the other team to drop the hammer. That's what we saw last week. When Bay Club was up and they had the hammer, they had no reason to drop it. They just didn't drop it. So they never let them New York get back into it by using the hammer. So they're going to figure this out. Like you said, it's I think what's key here, and we keep saying this, what's key here is that even in the growing pains of them figuring it out, it's still highly
we're here for it.
And I'm still tuning in every week at this point. And I cannot wait for the Boston Common Frogs to tee off. I'm looking so forward to it. There it is.
Frogs.
I think that's next week, right?
No, 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks. So 2 weeks. Okay.
2 weeks, which is great. I watched that, and the next morning I had to drive out to upstate New York for a camp conference. Look at this, 44 minutes in for summer camp. I'm presenting a couple of sessions. Can you believe that? Your boy's giving talks on professional stuff.
I see it. I will ask this. Do you prefer the 7:00 start time or the 9:00 start time for the TGI?
9.
I also prefer the 9 because one, I like that we can pregame it on here, but also I liked being able to sit in my bed and watch it. Just be comfortable laying in my bed watching it, and that was nice to me, because it's not something that I necessarily need to sit there and be like loud about cheering. I can just take it in on a lower volume and enjoy it, and still feel the intensity of it. But yeah, I liked it at 9. I think better than the 7, but I think it's pretty much going to be 7:00 every time moving forward now.
That's fine by me. Two things. Captain Keegan, have you seen this mustache that the guy's rocking?
Oh,
Strong.
I'm seeing it. I'm actually seeing it right now on my
Strong.
screen. Yeah.
I think with if you haven't seen, I'm a big fan of it, and I think that alone right there just tells you that we're going to win the Ryder Cup this year.
So you know what's helping him is the tan he got last week in Hawaii. That's definitely helping it. So it works with the tan. It's giving me very Chips vibes.
Oh God, California Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
There was speaking of speeding, there was one thing that the guys last week. It was Ricky and New York Golf Club, whoever it was, all three pretty much in unison. They said, "Hey, if there's one thing from TGL that you would implement on the tour, what would it be?" And all three of them in unison, shot clock, like all of them just said at the same time.
I think that is something that we will see
Dude,
in the next year or two, and I'm a big fan of it.
Fucking love that. But here's what I want: is I want the kid that's carrying the little name placard,
right?
I want the shot clock on top of that, and basically so and you go to your and that way the referee, because there's a scorer, there's an official with each group, and the referee just has a little clicker when he or she sees that the player's gotten to their ball and it is their turn. Click. If you're in the woods, taking a piss, or you're still doing your numbers and nobody tells you, it's your job. Just pay attention. And there's like three little lights that are on the top, and when there's timers next to each name. And like when it's your turn, boom, there you go. 40 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is. I would absolutely love it. And the only thing that would make it better, but this is what I know they won't do, is bring that heartbeat. I think that's the heartbeat is awesome.
The heartbeat's awesome because we've seen Thegali get down to like the last couple seconds a couple times because he's a little bit of a slower player. I love the heartbeat, but that is something that, let's be honest, the heartbeat is something that is only really at its max.
That's unique to
in an arena. It's unique in an arena because outside you're not going to get that same feel. But when you're in an arena and when you have the people in the arena counting down 10, 9, and you hear the heartbeat, like that was one of my favorite parts about last week was that. And I would be curious to hear. So they say they want the shot clock on tour. I'd be curious to hear their view on how they want to implement it. Like you were just saying, you gave a suggestion of it being on the score sign. Like I'd be curious to see how they think it would best be shown while on the hole or on the during play. That is something interesting to figure. Obviously, it's easy to do on the broadcast, but as far as them being on the course, I'd be curious to see how that's implemented.
I think it's super easy just because they have the technology and they have the bandwidth to do it. Like I said, whether it's the person walking around with the scores or each hole, just has like a big freaking countdown clock on the, in the score tower or whatever it might be, or the camera tower. I think it'll be easy enough to implement. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be, very simple. You have a minute to hit your shot or whatever, and you get a warning and this and the other. But definitely speed the shit up. I think this indoor stuff, my brain's already going where the reason they're building more is because they're already talking about expansion, and it just hit me. I could see this thing taking off and having, already like Grant Horvath and get Horvat and get a couple of those guys. Boom, there's your TGL team. And I could see TGL going, you got it. Like
because honestly, why not? It's almost like your old school pros versus Joes, even though we consider some of these guys pros, but it would be kind of similar to like an idea of someone who's not on tour versus tour.
And if I'm down in Palm Beach or wherever this is, I'm thinking of even like locals. Like I'd be hosting local tournaments. We'd have championships because that's what it hit me. I was like, I could see this being a new form of golf that's accessible again to people who can't afford to travel and they can't do all that, but here we can come play inside. And if somebody's laughing at me, probably going, oh yeah, you think this would definitely be
the amount of corporate retreats that would happen at these places, it would be outrageous.
And I gotta see, that's probably why it was on also on this like college campus. It's probably gonna be used for instruction, you know what I mean? It's definitely gonna be used for the golf team's probably gonna get to use it. And I was just looking at these greens, this circular green. Just wait till they start pulling them, replacing those, because it can tilt and everything. And I think that's pretty cool, but just it's going to get kind of boring with the bunker in the same spot. And I get that it can turn 360, but I think we'll start seeing. But we'll see those little tweaks over time. Let's see what we got. We got 10 minutes left. We got so okay, all right. Who won last week? Was it?
It was Nick Taylor. Oh wait, you mean on TGL? Oh, it's the Bay Club. Bay beat New York.
Oh, that's right. There's Ludwig and Shaner and somebody else. So they won last week. We got LA Golf Club. You know what? Good for LA. After what's been going on the last couple of weeks and still going on right now, you had the Rams kind of injecting a little bit of what they could, even SVP at the top of the show saying, hopefully not, I mean, there's no words. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Don't try. There are no words. All he was saying is, hopefully we can be a distraction. Hopefully we can, and that's kind of what DP says on his show. And that's kind of what we try to do here. It's why we don't dig into that kind of stuff. We'll acknowledge it. So, shout out to all of our fans on the West Coast and the LA area. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I do have friends that are out there, been in touch with them, and got an email from a friend today. And this was at work, but just said, hey, so totally, I'm so sorry. I owe you an email. We were supposed to connect right after the holidays, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they told me the wildfires are one canyon over from where they are right now. And they said, it's really scary. We're just watching out our window thinking, is it going to come over the ridge? Is it going to come over the ridge?
Right.
Because they know that if it does. So shout out LA Golf Club. Great first debut for them. I don't think anybody gives a shit that Tiger lost today, because the big win is that this is happening. So, and there's DJ Khaled. God, I love him. I
haven't seen him yet tonight. DJ Khaled.
That's because I'm streaming on my Roku outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and you're streaming on your devices somewhere in bumfuck New Hampshire. So we're not watching this at the same time.
Plus up, so that's
yeah. There you go. Any more TGL closing thoughts before we throw a nice pivot into this and talk about some football?
Yeah, so the one closing thought I have in the TGL is what we missed out on tonight with Tiger, and that was the backwards cap that he was wearing during his warm-up in the warm-up simulator in the locker room. Because I saw that clip and I said, oh my God, I hope he comes out and plays with the backwards hat for the entire tournament. Jesus, that's just like muscle memory there. For the entire match tonight. I wanted to see him with the backwards hat. I think we missed out on that, but whatever. That's minor. That's me.
My closing thought is this: I want TGL.
I see him.
I want TGL back in the fall. I think that's what kind of
right after the Tour Championship kind of thing.
Yeah, golf has been thinking for a long time how, outside of the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, how can we get the big names to kind of stay front and center? We've got the parent-child PNC in December. We got Tigers tournament. We have these one-offs, and we're bringing back the skins game. But I could see this going Tuesday, Wednesday nights, because what do you not have Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the fall? Pro football.
So And so
ESPN is going to own Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights that lead right into all of their not live coverage, but football coverage.
So here's my thought is, and this would lean into also them expanding at some point, which I believe is in their future, like we said. I would almost do it as use the final standings from the actual, quote unquote season of now, and do it almost tournament style. Use those final standings as seeding for the fall tournament and make it bracket style tournament. And the more teams as they expand, then it gets a little bit more legit. But you can do it almost like the way the WGCs used to do it, but in team format. I think that would be a fun way to mix it up for the fall, so that we're not just recycling the same product January to October.
I like that. I like that a lot. Let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the latest? We mentioned it a couple minutes last week, but this idea that the Tour Championship might go to match play. They might introduce a match play element. What do you think about that?
So my gut says I'm torn, because I love match play. I love watching match play. I think match play is made for TV. It's made for entertainment, and it's fantastic. The competitive side of me, though, says, what's the point of building up all season long in one format and then for the championship changing? Like that's where it gets me there. And I think that's why I will never fully be on board for it, because I don't want the entire golf season to feel illegitimate. You know what I mean? Because we start, like, I just brought up the WGCs that we used to have. Guys like Kevin Kisner were like studs, like they threw daggers at people in those WGCs.
Oh yeah, the match play.
But if you turned around and said that they won a tour championship, every year, you'd say, well, that seems weird. Like it doesn't feel like the way to go about it.
And the way it's been talked about would be, we have the 30 and then the tops, then we do maybe we have, instead of the top 30, it's the top 50, make it to East Lake. And then we have a cut for the top 32 and then you go match play. I've heard that, I agree with you. It doesn't make sense to build up all year than to have it be determined by a different format. Here's what I would want. Just flip it. Bring 32 guys, or bring 64. Hell, bring the 120, bring the 128 or whatever it is. Bring the whole fucking cut line. If you got your card next year, come on to Eastlake. And then we're going to do match play to whittle it down to 16, 32, maybe 32. Then those 32 go play the weekend in stroke play. Just flip it. Again, I just think the wrinkle is what they're looking for, and I think it would make sense to, because I also don't. Nobody's going to tune in on Sunday for mano a mano if it's Joe Shit the Ragman versus Fluffy the Tailor. But if Joe Shit the Ragman and Fluffy the Tailor are 1 and 2, but then 3, 4, 5 is Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and Colin Morikawa, you're going to watch. So don't let the match play limit your potential viewership, but inject it when the field is thicker, and then take the finals, even if it's the final 16, because we're talking about 8 groups. That's still very easy to get every single shot and have that going on. And you have just this pack of 8 groups going around the course.
Because that's key. At that point, you want something that's made for TV. That is, the purpose of that would be to bring in entertainment. So you got to do that. Yeah, I think I'd rather just see it all separate. I'd rather the Tour Championship still be the way it is. I like the way it is now. I'd rather just be that, and then
that's but you're closed-minded.
But I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind some sort of match play tournament immediately after it that incorporates somehow the way you finished in the Tour Championship, but for a separate award that has some sort of separate, reward for that affects your standing for the next season, like something like that. Like you get something for winning the tournament after the championship that helps you in the next season. Like I'd prefer to see something like that.
More, not less. So here's a quick pivot for you. Has anybody's stock dropped more than Sam Darnold's in the last 2 weeks?
Oh, Sam Darnold's not going to have a job. I mean, he's going to have a job, but it's not going to be with the Minnesota Vikings anymore, which is shocking because 2 weeks ago, it was JJ McCarthy who was out of a job.
Right. We're talking like franchise tag Darnold, blah, blah, blah.
What we saw last night out of Sam Darnold was New York Jets Sam Darnold. We saw, I'm just seeing ghosts back there, Sam Darnold. Like he looked terrified. And look, that's not, I don't want to take credit away from the Rams, because the Rams saw what the Lions did the week before in week 18. Yeah. And they said, hey, shit, that worked. Let's do that. And that's the thing. They didn't try to overcomplicate it. They said, that worked. We're gonna copy it. And they simply copied it, and they have the players to do that. And they succeeded, painful. They executed, and shame on the Vikings for not being ready for it.
Is Kansas City gonna three-peat?
No. The Ravens and the Bills are too good. And the Chiefs are just not as good as they have been in the past. I still say that the fact that they're the 1 seed, they were the luckiest team this year. And yes, and I'm speaking out of two sides of my mouth, because at the same time,
you have to. How many Patriots Super Bowls were won by the skin of our teeth? Like, let's be honest.
Well, and that's why I have to also, if I'm going to say that about them, I have to say it about the Pats. Like, there's on one hand, you can say that all the 1 possession last minute games that they've won are luck, but at the same time, they still found ways to get themselves in position to have the luck matter. So, you got to give it to them a little bit. It's still, but they're not the Chiefs of past years that were world beaters that you felt scared to go up against. I don't think the Bills or Ravens are scared to go against this Chiefs team, and I think they will either one of them can beat them. So we'll see. We'll see what I think. The Chiefs have the Texans, right?
Yeah, Chiefs, Texans, Detroit, and Washington, which is saucy, because I think that
I love that.
Find out.
That's gonna be a fun game.
I love it, because if I almost feel like we were expecting, this is Rocky 4. Detroit is Drago and Washington is Rocky, and we're just expecting this to be one thing. But if all of a sudden you let them hang around long enough,
they can do something.
That said, what's going to fucking take to take down Detroit at home. But
that's the thing. Jaden Daniels has
Super Bowl
ice
Sunday
in his veins.
Yeah. No, he does. I mean, but the Super Bowl to me is Sunday night. Buffalo, Baltimore.
Oh my God, that game's gonna be so good.
I even think that whoever Detroit, even if it is Detroit that comes out, I don't know who goes up against them. You would have to get Philly with all cylinders going.
So that's the thing. What we saw out of Philly this past weekend, they won. it was an ugly win, though.
Right.
I'll
Did
tell
you were you one hold on
say-
real quick? Were you one of the folks who had a Saquon Barkley anytime TD bet?
No, I did not. No, I did not. But that's funny. Did you also see that
It was the biggest bet of the weekend. It was the biggest bet of the weekend. Everybody had it, right? Sure bet.
I saw another one that said it was the biggest bet of the weekend was maybe what I saw was the biggest bet of the day for yesterday,
Right.
and that was Justin Jefferson 60+ receiving yards. He ended up with 58.
Why do they do it?
And DK just obviously crushed that because so many people bet it.
Did Vegas do it? All right, let's land this plane.
I know, but I will say the Eagles defense is legit. We'll see what their passing offense looks awful, and that's what I was going to say there about.
Well, we'll break down the NFL playoffs, and we'll take a peek finally at the PGA Tour schedule properly next week.
Yeah, because we do have some actual tournaments coming up. That was mean of me.
No,
but look, that is going to do it to us here. I hope you're tuning into the rest of it should be wrapping up actually fairly short here, the TGL. So tune into that. They got 2 holes left. It's already won by LA, but they will finish it out. We'll be back next Tuesday, as we will be every Tuesday for the rest of the golf season here, 8 o'clock on TSPN. That's That Sports Podcast Network. And hey, just a little teaser here. We do have the Super Bowl show coming up on the network again, as we did last year. We got some crazy, awesome guests coming on again. Yours truly right here, myself and Bud, may also be making another appearance together, doing some interviews. So keep a lookout for that on That Sports Podcast Network. We'll see you next Tuesday. We love you as always, and as always, stay classy, my friends.